All right, welcome to today's program. Thank you for joining us. We are joined by Executive Director of Lutheran Counseling Services, Megan Miesler, and she's going to share with us today a little bit about helping our kids transition to summer. So as the days of the school year are winding down and we're getting ready to transition into that summer, there's a lot of things we don't always think about as parents. So welcome to Megan, and thank you for sharing with us this morning.
Hi guys, like she said, I am Megan Miesler. I'm the Executive Director at Lutheran Counseling Services, and just wanted to do a quick webinar for you today about things to think about as your kids are transitioning to summer, things to think about for you personally, but then also just things that we need to keep in mind for our kids. So on this type of webinar, you can ask questions off to the right-hand side of your screen. There is a question section, so you can type those in and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Wanted to do just kind of a easy format, so not doing a PowerPoint presentation or anything, but I have some fun things that I want to share with you and show you today. So first off, for us, for my family, I have 3 kids, and we are getting ready to launch into summer in, I think the countdown is 11 days. It's because we have a countdown at our house, because that's important, because some of my kids like school and some of my kids do not like school. So first I want to tell you about a countdown. A countdown can be awesome because it can prepare kids as they get ready to go into summer to know what is coming next. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. In my house, I have a almost 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And so my older 2 very much keep in their frame of reference when school is ending. But for my 7-year-old, she's not always up to date on her days of the week or how many days are left or what day of the week it is. So having a countdown, either having a calendar or if you've seen those things where you take chains and you loop them together and then you tear them off, those can be great countdowns for kids that are younger to begin to prepare themselves for what's going to come or know what is coming next. So important as we transition from one piece to the next, from either school to summer or summer to school, to know what goes on with our kids emotionally. So just like any other transition that happens in life, there are big emotions that come with transitions. So if you've ever moved, if you've ever lost somebody, if you've ever lost a pet, if you've ever had to say goodbye to somebody, your emotions go up and down, right? And we need to be able to expect that from our kids as they transition from summer or from school to summer and then back from summer to school. So think about it. They are having to say goodbye to teachers, to a physical classroom, to some of their things that they've had. We have to turn our books back in. So they're physically giving things away and saying goodbye. And that can cause some really big emotions in kids. So what we see when we see big emotions in kids and changes like this that go on, that their feelings are like a roller coaster all over the place. So one moment they might be happy, and then they might be sad, and then they might be frustrated. So what you need to be able to do is kind of ride those waves of emotion with your kids. Let them know that that's normal to experience those up and downs, feeling frustrated and sad. But we also know that a lot of nerves come with that. Kids get very nervous about changes that are going on, and also some regression. So if your kid was completely capable of doing something and then all of a sudden they forgot how to do it, or they don't want to do that anymore, maybe it was a chore, maybe it was sleeping alone, that can be expected through times of transitions. So normally going from school to summer is a fun time for kids, but for some kids, they don't see that as fun because change is uncomfortable. So as parents, we need to ready ourselves to help our children through this transition. Now, I'm a mom of 3 too. So school to summer is a huge transition for me personally as a parent, right? Because they are going to be around a lot more. They're going to be my full-time responsibility. So for me as a parent, that's going to be a difficult transition at times too, thinking of things to get them involved in or ways that they can spend their time, or just making sure that I am positively filling them up over the summer. So I want you to get ready too, that you can be a little anxious and nervous about what you're going to do with your kids over the summer, because that's going on in my house right now as well. So be aware for you that you need to keep to your schedules, keep to your routines. It's important for your own self-care, just like it is for them as they transition. So the first thing I really want to tell you about is schedules. Schedules give kids consistency. So for my older one, he just can't wait to spend all of his day playing video games. Well, I know as a parent, not just because it's video games, but not having some sort of routine that he follows is not going to be healthy for him. So whether it is just, every morning we're going to do this and every afternoon we're going to do this, or whether it is a much more structured time, having a schedule for a kid is very important. If you're going on vacation, if you're taking trips, getting a big calendar set up in your house so kids know what day it is and when we're leaving and what I have to prepare for. Not only prepare for physically, but prepare for emotionally is so important. In our house, we like to use a big whiteboard, and that I can set the daily routines of what we're going to do, but also a big paper calendar that I can say in 2 weeks, we're leaving on this trip, and on this date, we're leaving on this trip. And it's something that they can physically see, because that is vital for it to be something that they can go to regularly. My older two are very much on their own electronics, so being able to share Google Calendar or things like that with them is important. Basically, what I want you to think about is how can your children have access to that information, dates and schedules that they can get on their own, that they don't have to keep coming to you and asking you about. Where can they physically see it in their home? They do better when that is in front of them. We also know that kids do a lot better with routines. Routines bring that safety and structure. So for me in my house, for the first couple of days of summer, I'll let you go. You can do what you want. You can have your time to chill and relax. But if I do that for too long, things seem to get a little chaotic. So we slow it down and we give them a routine. And it can be a similar routine even when you're like taking a trip or doing some things that maybe you're going to be in the car for a long time. Setting up schedules and routines are important. So if you're putting your kids in a summer camp, that allows them to have some structure or some routines that go on. If you're leaving your kids home for the summer, like I do a lot, it's important that you build that schedule for them, that you set that in motion so they have this routine and structure that they can follow. So for us, like I said, I set up a daily structure for my kids, and it involves breakfast. It involves who's going to make it and who's going to clean it up. They get chunks of free time throughout the day. I encourage them to do some exercise. So in our house, we have a stationary bike that my son likes to do. There's some dance videos and yoga videos that my kids like to do. So Cosmic Kids is a really awesome yoga video that my 7-year-old loves. She can pull it up on her iPad. She has her time on her schedule where she can do that, and it's something that she can do. It's not just sitting and looking at an iPad, but that gets her up and gets her moving. My daughter has her volleyball exercise routine that she likes to do. And always in our schedule is a chore at the house. So whether that is they're going to clean the windows, or they're going to load the dishwasher, or they're going to vacuum their room, they're always going to have a responsibility. We'll talk about responsibilities in a minute, but those are very, very important for kids. Then we have lunch. Somebody's going to make it. Somebody's going to clean it up. So somebody is held responsible for that activity. Reading is always part of our day, and I would encourage that to be part of your children's routine, whether that's a couple times a week or once a day. We know that our kids' brains are still developing, and they still need to be challenged in that way over the summer. So reading is a great way to do that. For my kids, I like to give them like a surprise activity, and usually it's something sensory. Usually it doesn't have to do with electronics, but sometimes it does. But it's a sensory activity, whether it's bubbles or whether it's a game I've hidden in the house or something like that that gets them involved and engaged. And then setting up a snack or something, and again, people's responsibility. So it's not a highly structured time. I'm not setting a time that you have to be out of bed for, unless you're making breakfast. But I am giving them some structure to their day. So they're up and they're moving around the house. If you're able to have your kids plugged into some sports or a camp here and a camp there, that's great. I know here in Orlando, you can do bowling. They have this really cool thing where they'll give you like summer bowling and all you have to do is pay for your shoes. So every once in a while, we'll have an outing like that. But getting your kids to be active and moving in some type of structure is very, very important. The other piece that I feel like a lot of us forget about, just nothing malice in it, but we just forget about, is our kids need to engage with their peers over the summer. It's so important to continue that social activity. And often that we find in our work that either kids will spend their time maybe alone at home for the summer, or maybe on trips with their family and stuff where they're not engaging with peers of their own age. So I told you I have 3 kids. Them sitting home and engaging with each other is not the same as them getting involved with their peers. So doing things such as camps or play dates or setting up time where they can engage with one another is so important. Here's my caveat. It has to be physical, like I could touch you and see you. So a webinar does not count as social engagement. Neither does Fortnite, neither does online gaming, neither does FaceTime. I'm not poo-pooing those things. I think those are great things to let our kids be able to do in limited time frame. And honestly, over the summer, I find that as my kids engage in those things, then they make connections to meet each other face to face. So for me, those are important. But that engagement with their peers needs to be face to face. It needs to be right in front of each other, where we practice facial expressions, social skills, developing those relationships. Because remember, when we've left school and we've transitioned to summer, it is like a loss. It is a loss of those relationships. So to be able to continue some of those relationships as we transition back into school is going to be very, very important. So if you're going to be away for the summer, if you're going to be traveling, if you're going to take some trips, find some time when you are home to engage with those peers that they will probably be in class with next year, or find some time when you're on a trip or something for them to engage with peers that are their same age. It is a vital piece of development. We know that when kids isolate themselves, they are more prone to depression and anxiety. So encouraging them to interact with their peers face to face is what can keep your child healthy over the summer. I'm just going to check, see if we have any questions yet. By the way, just feel free to ask me any questions as I go about this. The other key piece over the summer, we've talked about schedules, we've talked about interactions with peers. The other key piece is teaching responsibility. Summer is a great time to teach your kid a new responsibility, whether that's a chore at home or a new task that you want them to work on or a new skill you want them to develop. Being able to be home and try out things is a great time. What we know about responsibility is that when you give your child more responsibility, you are actually physically saying to them, I believe that you are capable. I believe that you can do this. And that builds self-esteem. Chores, responsibilities build self-esteem. You are empowering your kid and saying, you can do this. Now, they might not do it the way you want them to do it. I get that. That happens all the time in my house. But my first thing is to affirm the fact that they tried, affirm the fact that they did it, and then come behind them and work with them to maybe prune that skill, clean it up, do it a little bit better, but encouraging them that they are capable of doing these things. In some other webinars I've done, I've talked about what does your child need to know for 10 years from now? 10 years from now, my 11-year-old will be able to do laundry and cook for himself and wake himself up in the morning and take care of all the tasks that he will need to be able to do for himself. So I'm going to start teaching him now how to make his lunch, how to do the laundry, how to wash dishes, how to vacuum, all of those tasks, right? So think about using your time over the summer to teach your kid a new skill, to teach them a responsibility, something that they're going to need for the future, because that will empower them. So as part of our schedule, we always have a task that they're going to complete. Sometimes they're as simple as take the garbage out, right? Other times they're a little bit more challenging or thought-provoking, but it teaches them responsibility. Also, sometimes I believe a summer is a good time if you haven't experimented with maybe leaving your child home by themselves if they're old enough. It's a good time to give them a little bit of that freedom and see how they do with it. As you run to the grocery store, as you maybe do some chores or errands that you need to do, see how they do with that responsibility. It can be very, very important for them. The other thing I wanted to say is something I tried out last summer was I wanted my kids to do a little bit more things around the house while we were at work. So I took pictures and I made notes on them and I texted it to them. Hey, will you please do this today? Hey, will you please clean this up today? For my 7-year-old, I would make a video and I would send it to her iPad in the morning, asking her to do things, walking around the house, showing her what I wanted her to do. And it was a way that I was able to engage with them and teach them on a level that they really like to hear. So sometimes we just need to think outside of the box about how we're going to teach and share those things. All right, so we've talked about schedules. We've talked about getting involved with their friends. We've talked about teaching responsibility. The fourth thing is we need to continue to teach. Our kids over the summer need to continue to learn new things. It's part of brain development. We still need their brain to be firing, to be establishing those connections where they learn and grow so that when the school year starts, they're not all tired and worn out and not able to get their brain back in gear. So there's lots of cool things that are provided that you can do. There's summer bridge books. We've done those a lot in our house. They're for all grades. No matter what grade you're going into, you can find a summer bridge book. My older ones, that's not really their thing anymore. There's a great thing online called Khan Academy. So that's some things that you can do over the summer to develop math, I think science skills too. And it's definitely online. So that's another great piece. The kids get to engage in the technology. We do IXL at our school, and sometimes we can still log into IXL over the summer and work on math skills. My 7-year-old can work on like language arts skills and stuff. So that's good. One of the things that I saw somewhere that I really want to try this summer is having my kids write letters to family members. It works on their handwriting, it works on their grammar. They can send them pictures. It teaches them how to put something in the mail, address it, stamp it, all of those things, which are great skills that we don't always get taught. So writing letters to families is a good way to engage in those kind of things. The other things that we have done throughout the summer is to be able to, especially for my 7-year-old, have fun little things along the day. So there's a lot of great ideas on Pinterest, and in a minute, I'm gonna have Erica pull up my Pinterest page. But one thing we have done is that I will pick a letter for the day for my 7-year-old, and I will have a basket. And throughout the day, she has to go around our house and grab everything that starts with that letter. So if the letter is B for the day, she's found a plastic butterfly and a ball and another bouncy ball and blueberries, and she puts them all in the basket. And then when we get home, we go over all the things that she found. And it was developing those skills in her, or a color for the day. For my older ones, I've done like a scavenger hunt for the day. So those are fun things that you can do that you're still able to engage your child in the learning process throughout the summer. All right, so we've talked about schedules, responsibility, time with peers, continuing to be able to learn over the summer. So I want to show you just for just a minute, Erica, if you could pull up my Pinterest page on the screen, some fun things to do over the summer that will engage your child. So if you see that first thing on the screen was those little loops that we talked about as part of a schedule of like counting down our days to summer or our days back to school. There's a lot you can find on Pinterest about kindness activities. Painting rocks is like the coolest thing if you haven't done it. There's like this whole page called My Oviedo Rocks here in Orlando, and they paint rocks and they hide them throughout the city. But I like this idea of kindness rocks too. So when we talk about learning, continuing to challenge our kids, there's a lot more things we can do that are not like school, right? They get our kids out and active. If you have younger kids, engaging in things that are more sensory oriented are really great for them because it continues to challenge their fine motor skills. It continues to develop their brain. One of the things my kids still love is water beads. And so just getting a bucket of water beads, you can get them at Walmart for like 99 cents. I think they're on my Pinterest page somewhere. And it's just like tactile play and water beads. You would not even believe how much that can entertain an 11-year-old. So all these fun, different sensory pieces that you can do. Some other ideas on my page, there's some cooking things. It's a great time for your kids to experiment on different things that they can make and cook for themselves. It teaches them independence. For older kids, they like being able to engage in some art projects, maybe decorating their room in that way. So I just had a whole bunch of things on my Pinterest page for different summer activities that you can go and click on and see. And they're not just for little kids. Like there are definitely ways that you can engage your older middle school teenagers into ways to still challenge their brain throughout the summer. Pause right there on that board jar. So if you're like me, you always get the whole piece of I'm bored. I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, I have nothing to do, right? That's what I get from my older kids. So for one summer, we developed an I'm bored jar. And it's basically just a little mason jar with all these things in it that I know they love to do, right? Have a water gun fight. Have a Mario Kart challenge on the Wii. So there's just all these different things that they can go into the I'm bored jar and pull out and do. And they're filled with activities that they like to do, not chores, okay? So they're filled with things that they like to do, like call a friend, all those different things. Go outside and play with chalk. So I would encourage you to have one of these I'm bored jars. Come up with a whole bunch of things. On my Pinterest page, there's like a summer bucket list. Those are great things to put in your I'm bored jar. Right, yeah, right there, Erica. Friends you want to see, things you want to do. You can have your kids create those as you're getting ready for summer and then tuck them away in your house somewhere. And when you get that awful statement of I'm bored, you redirect them to it and have them go pull out something. Other thing over the summer is positive reinforcement is great. So for me, an idea that we had that we've used a couple times, I love puff balls. They're my favorite. I use them for everything. Sometimes we call them warm fuzzies. But puff balls, as my kids do extra chores or extra things around the house, we can gather them up as puff balls and then there can be a reward that goes with them. Or the other thing that we've done more recently with these is at dinner time, share a warm fuzzy, because these are nice and warm and fuzzy, of good things that are happening in our life, of things that we've enjoyed, and then gather them up in our jar and we can see our blessings. So just like to throw all different kinds of ideas out there for you. All right, so things that I wanted you to focus on this summer was creating routines for your kids, right? Developing responsibility, engaging with their peers, and continuing the learning process over the summer. That will give your children a great summer. You don't have to go anywhere or have these big lavish vacations if you don't, but continue to focus on those 4 things and your kids will still be developing over the summer. As I said at the beginning, it's important to understand what goes on with children during transitions. Not just the transition from school to summer, but then also the transition back from summer to school. I would encourage you throughout the summer that you keep talking about going back to school, that you frame it in a positive light, that as you get information about what class your kid will be in, who's going to be in their class with them, you begin to share that with them. Just as they had anxiety about school ending and summer beginning, all kids have anxiety about summer ending and school starting. It's an unknown factor. So the more that you can put tangible pieces in front of them, the more you can drive by their school, see what it looks like, talk about starting back, the better it is. When we push that off to like the start of August to start talking about school and thinking about school, it will heighten anxiety. So even if your child is anxious about going back to school during the summer, you need to start talking about it. Please don't avoid it. They do better when they have tangible things that they can hold on to about something new happening. Buying new outfits, getting their school supplies, allowing them to be part of that process and picking it out. The transition, I hope you heard that word multiple times. The transition from school to summer, then summer to school is not always easy. So be ready and be prepared for your children to have big emotions and big feelings in regards to those transitions. But know that you have tools in your pocket to help them. If you need any more help or tips, we try to share on our blogs and our Facebook page and our social media regularly about things that you can do with our kids. We've been sharing with you our school newsletter that Erica does regularly too about how to have positive conversations in the car with your student. And those can help too as you're looking to develop different responsibilities and different characteristics in your child. I don't see that we have any questions, Erica, so I am going to wrap up here in just a second. But I want to remind you to focus on those 4 things we talked about: establishing a schedule, connecting kids with their peers, teaching responsibility, and continuing the learning process over the summer. As always, if you guys need anything, you are more than welcome to reach out to us either through our phone number or by email or even directly on our social media. We'd be happy to help you in any way. Erica, do you have anything to add to the things that we've talked about?
Yeah, actually, I was, as you were talking, I was thinking that for some people, this transition into summer might mean that the transition back to school is to a new school. And so a lot of the things that you mentioned, I thought would be really helpful for any families that are looking at that. I think for me personally, when I work with children, I encourage them to go to the school. So sometimes summer camps or even some schools might have a church or other meetings that may take place even over the summer at the school. And I think having connections to the school, driving by the school, maybe take a picnic, go to the playground, have, if it's open in the summer, to have those positive connections. And then also I think connecting in social media to the school to get a sense and to show your child, you know, here's whatever age they are, they can kind of see, here's some pictures of what they did last year, here are some events they have coming up, and kind of making those connections. And I agree with that social connection, and I think especially for moving to a new school, if there is any way to connect with the folks that might be at the new school over the summer, I think that and having those conversations and having those connections over the summer really makes that transition in. So I think a lot of what you said really fits for that. And that was something I was wondering, you know, I think a lot of families are dealing with that, whether it's a transition to a brand new school for moving, whether it's a transition of moving from an elementary level to middle or middle to high, and connecting with just knowing some faces on campus, knowing where things are, knowing some resources, and kind of seeing some positive connections, social media connections, smiling faces, fun activities.
Yeah, I love the idea too of like pictures, like being able to look at a campus map, or being able to see what the classrooms look like, or like pulling up your teacher's picture on their website so you know what she's going to look like. Because isn't that always the scariest thing? Like, you don't know what somebody's going to look like, and they might look scary. So being able to see those pictures and those images ahead of time is going to be really important for your kids. It's another tangible piece.
Absolutely, and I could even see what you were saying about writing letters. It could be writing a letter to their new teacher over the summer, so that kind of builds a few of those things. Or what would you like your teacher to know about you? Can we do a craft project, an about me project that you'll take and share? And just having those conversations in the comfort of home while doing some fun activities like some of these here on the Pinterest page, I think can be really useful. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody who's kind of dealing with that type of transition this summer.
Yeah, and all transitions are big, and I think that parents need to recognize that you go through like those emotions up and down. We all know when we drop our kid off at school, like for the first day of school, there are big emotions that come. So own your own like feelings about that too. Own your own anxiety, or maybe it's happiness that your kids are going back to school. Maybe it's, you know, fear that they're coming home for the summer. But own those feelings too, because your big emotions interact with their big emotions.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I know that we have recorded our webinar today, and so we're going to put it on our website as well, so it can be revisited later. But again, as you guys have questions or concerns that pop up for you, please know that we're here. We would love to chat with you, talk with you, assist you in any way that we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.